A man who had left school at 13 to work as a delivery boy for a local shirt maker in A Coruña, Spain, who had spent the following 20 years learning the specific economics of garment manufacturing and retail by working in every specific role the industry offered: cutting fabric, sewing, taking orders, managing inventory, interacting directly with the specific customers who bought clothes and the specific suppliers who made them, opened a small clothing store in 1975 that was built around a specific commercial insight so contrary to the established conventions of the fashion industry that most fashion industry professionals of the era would not have recognized it as a fashion company at all, and built that store over the following 5 decades into the largest fashion retail group in the world. His name was Amancio Ortega Gaona. Born in 1936 in Bustongo de Arbas, a small village in Leon, Spain, he had moved with his family to A Coruña as a child after his father, a railroad worker, sought better economic opportunities in the larger coastal city. The specific poverty of his family's circumstances, a poverty directly experienced and not merely historically reconstructed, gave him a specific and permanent personal conviction that genuinely good clothing did not need to be expensive and that the specific economic mechanisms that made good clothing expensive were not inherent to the production of good clothing but specific to the particular commercial structures the fashion industry had adopted for reasons that were primarily historical and institutional rather than economically necessary. Morgan Housel has written that the specific commercial innovations most likely to transform established industries are those that identify not a specific technology that existing industry participants cannot access but a specific organizational arrangement that those participants have not adopted, whose specific economics are superior to the existing arrangement and whose specific adoption the existing participants resist not because they cannot adopt it but because its specific economics threaten specific existing revenue streams and specific existing institutional relationships that those participants depend on. Ortega's specific innovation, vertical integration of design, manufacturing, and retail combined with a specific supply chain designed to move specific garments from design concept to retail sale in approximately 2 to 3 weeks rather than the industry standard 6 to 9 months, was not a technological innovation. It was a specific organizational innovation whose specific economics were superior to the existing model and whose specific adoption by existing fashion industry participants was specifically resisted because it threatened the specific supply chain relationships and the specific seasonal collection model on which their specific businesses were organized. The specific mechanics of the Zara supply chain that Ortega developed through the 1970s and 1980s were built around a specific principle that inverted the conventional fashion industry production model. Conventional fashion producers designed collections 6 to 9 months before they appeared in stores, manufactured those collections in large batches at the lowest available production cost, which typically meant manufacturing in distant low-cost countries, and shipped those large batches to retail stores, where they were sold at a specific price that was required to be high enough to cover the specific capital cost of holding large unsold inventory for the specific duration between production and sale. Ortega's specific model, manufacturing in small batches, primarily in Spain and nearby countries whose proximity to his retail locations made short production to sale cycles possible, replenishing stores weekly based on specific real-time sales data from those stores, eliminated most of the specific inventory risk that made conventional fashion retail both expensive and environmentally wasteful. Benjamin Graham's investment philosophy emphasized the specific commercial advantage of businesses that systematically eliminate a specific large structural cost from their industry's operations, on the grounds that the specific elimination of that cost creates a specific margin of competitive advantage over industry participants who retain that cost that can be expressed either as higher profit at equivalent prices or as lower prices at equivalent profit, or as some specific combination of both, and that this specific structural advantage is more durable than any product or marketing advantage because it is embedded in the specific organizational design of the business rather than in any specific product or specific market position that competitors can directly replicate. Daniel Kahneman's research into how real-time feedback improves decision-making quality in complex environments, specifically, the finding that decisions made with access to specific, current, accurate information about outcomes produce systematically better results than decisions made based on projected outcomes estimated in advance, applies directly to understanding why Zara's specific weekly restocking model based on real-time sales data from its stores produced systematically better inventory decisions than the conventional fashion industry's 6 to 9 month advance production decisions. The specific gap between what fashion buyers predicted consumers would want 6 months in advance and what specific consumers actually chose to purchase when standing in stores was, and remains, a specific and genuinely large source of inventory error, markdown cost, and wasted production in conventional fashion retail. Zara's specific system was designed specifically to make decisions as close as possible to the specific moment of consumer choice rather than as far in advance of it as the conventional model required. Ortega himself is one of the most personally private major business figures of the modern era. He has given very few interviews, has been photographed relatively rarely, and has built no personal public brand of the kind that most comparably wealthy and commercially successful entrepreneurs of his generation have maintained. The specific commercial entity he built, the Inditex group that controls Zara, Massimo Dutti, Pull & Bear, and several other fashion retail brands, is valued by the market at well over €100 billion. Ortega himself is consistently ranked among the wealthiest individuals in the world. Neither specific fact has produced the specific public profile that either fact, applied to a different person, might have generated. Robert Kiyosaki's core lesson about building genuine, durable commercial value through specific structural organizational efficiency rather than through brand marketing, product differentiation, or any other competitive approach that competitors can directly replicate applies directly to the specific Zara model. The specific commercial advantage of Zara's supply chain is not a brand advantage. Other fashion brands have spent far more on brand development and marketing than Zara. It is not a product advantage. Zara's specific garments are not, by most objective assessments, technically superior to comparable products from comparably priced competitors. It is a specific organizational advantage whose particular economics, lower inventory risk, faster response to consumer preference, higher proportion of full-price sales, generate specific, structural, ongoing margin advantages that competitors who have not adopted the specific organizational model cannot eliminate by spending more on brand or product. Here's an honest complication worth including. Zara's specific supply chain model, whose specific environmental advantage of lower unsold inventory and lower markdown waste is genuine, has been the subject of specific and credible criticism for the specific overall volume of new clothing production that its specific business model encourages. The specific consumer behavior that Zara's specific fast fashion model was designed to exploit, the specific willingness of fashion consumers to purchase more frequently when prices are lower and turnover is faster, has contributed to a specific and significant increase in total clothing consumption whose specific environmental consequences are not eliminated and may in fact be amplified by the specific reduction in unsold inventory waste that the Zara model achieves within each specific production run. George S. Classen's fundamental advice about the specific importance of eliminating unnecessary cost from every specific productive process, and about the specific compounding value of maintaining that cost discipline consistently across every specific operational decision rather than only in specific high-visibility contexts, describes the specific organizational philosophy that Ortega built Zara around with a precision that makes the ancient Babylonian framework feel directly applicable to 21st century Spanish fast fashion. So here's a question worth sitting with. In your own professional field, Is there a specific large structural cost, a specific delay, a specific inventory risk, a specific information lag, that the conventional operational model of your industry accepts as inherent but that a specific different organizational arrangement could systematically eliminate? Before you leave, I want to hear from you. Have you ever personally experienced the specific consumer value of a retail or service operation that was operating on genuinely faster feedback loops than its competitors, one that seemed to always have what you actually wanted rather than what it had predicted 6 months ago you would want? And did that specific experience change how you evaluated the specific operational design of the businesses you were choosing to purchase from? Read a few comments before you go. Some of the most practically grounded insights on this channel come from people who've thought carefully about exactly that specific question from their own direct consumer or operational experience. Next week, I'll pick one comment and send its author one of the books that inspired this channel. And if these stories help you think differently about money, you'll find a way to support future research in the description. Every contribution helps buy books, access research, and keep this content free for everyone. Remember this. Amancio Ortega did not build the largest fashion retail group in the world by designing more desirable clothes than his competitors, by spending more on brand marketing, or by finding a lower-cost source of garment manufacturing than the industry was already using. He built it by identifying the specific structural cost in the conventional fashion industry model, the specific inventory risk of producing large batches 6 months before consumers chose what they wanted to buy, and designing a specific organizational system that eliminated that cost by moving the production decision as close as possible to the specific moment of consumer choice.